I'm Alex. This is Code Along with Alex, and today we're going to define dependent environment variables for a container in a Kubernetes pod. So before you begin, you need a Kubernetes cluster with the kubectl command line tool configured. I am using Killer Coda because it's super convenient, and yeah, that's the main reason. And it's free, so check them out. That's about it. So let's dive right in. So when you create a pod, you can set dependent environment variables for the containers that run in the pod. To set dependent environment variables, you can use varname and the value of env field in the configuration file. So in this exercise, we're going to now create a pod that runs one container, and the configuration file for the pod defines a dependent environment variable with common usage. Let's write a manifest. So we'll create a file called dependent envars.yaml. And then let's open that with, I don't even know if I spelled that right. Depend, no, I didn't, but that's fine. Doesn't really matter what it's spelled, as long as you apply it. Okay, so this one's a little longer YAML than before that we've been doing recently, but we'll start out with an API version field, a kind field, a metadata field with a nested name field, and we'll call our pod dependent envars demo. Okay, now a spec field with a containers subfield that itself has some subfields. Start name, dependent envars demo, args. We'll do a new line. While true, do echo en, then a new line, print f, and then some environment variables. The first one we're going to do is unchanged reference. Oh no. Oh, sadness. Oh, where'd it go? Open a, yes. Yo. Got overwritten. Okay, let me paste in some of that stuff. It's a little tricky. I think you just, oh man. Okay. When YAML fights back. So you can see we have while true, do echo, printf, unchanged reference, and then a new line, printf service address, and then making a service address variable or printing that. And really just looking at a couple different environment variables and then sleeping, and then we're done. Okay, now I'll type out some commands. Hopefully it won't freak out again. That was kind of weird. sh -c. Okay, now let's specify the image. I'm going to use busybox 1.28. Now let's specify env field, name, service, port, And we'll set the value of this environment variable to be 80. Next, let's declare an environment variable called service IP. So much spacing. And then we'll set this to be an IP address with this value. Awesome. We've got 4 more environment variables, and then we can actually apply the configuration. Okay, next. Ooh, I don't need that extra line there. Okay, name. This one will be unchanged. Reference. And we'll set the value to $. Protocol / $service IP colon another $, all the variables, service port. Awesome. Okay, next let's declare a variable, an environment variable called protocol. And we'll set the value. Someone is sneezing in my house. Gesundheit to them. HTTPS is the protocol we'll use today. Next, let's create an environment variable called service address. And we'll set the value, just kind of similar to unchanged reference. Actually, almost identical, yeah. Gesundheit again to the person who is sneezing in my house. It's not like a stranger, it's someone that I know. I just don't know who. I know who it is. It's my dad. He's a very loud sneezer. Okay, must be a dad thing, I don't know. All right, so now let's do, so we got protocol. Now we want to do service. Okay, now he's talking really loud too after sneezing. Must be hard of hearing after the loud sneezes, so he has to talk extra loud. No hate to my dad, he's a great guy. Okay. Shouldn't record when he's in a sneezy mood. All right. Protocol, service IP, and then service port. That's why it looks shorter. Okay. Next, we'll do escaped reference. I spelled that right. Spelling is a challenge sometimes. Value. Ooh, double $. Protocol. I don't know if this $$ is a typo or not. I'm using the docs as a reference, but we'll see. I'm not super familiar. Maybe it's so that it renders a specific way. Who knows? Okay, service port. Escaped reference. Okay, so yeah, that's why. Okay, awesome. Now let's save that and create a pod. Awesome. And so we just have to remember the name. I'll just move it to, okay, dependent envars.yaml pendant envars.yaml. We're good. Okay. So now let's apply kubectl apply -f. dependent envars.yaml, and a pod should be created. And it was. Nice. Okay, let's list the running pods. kubectl get pods dependent envars demo. And I spelled it wrong. Dependent envars demo. Nice. And it's running and it's ready. Okay. And now let's check the logs for this container that's running in our pod. kubectl logs pod dependent envars demo. Emo. Nice. And so you can see some stuff is being printed out. We have it twice, which is not expected. But that's fine. I might have copied it twice. Okay, cool. So as kind of shown today, we define the correct dependency reference of service address, a bad dependency reference of unchanged reference, and a skip dependent references of escaped reference. Let's read that again. We define the correct dependency reference of service address. Okay, yeah, because that looks good. A bad dependency reference of unchanged reference, and a skip dependent references of escaped reference. Okay, so these didn't work when we put in the variables, but that's fine. The one that worked is the one that we expected. Service address. Okay. When an environment variable is already defined when being referenced, the reference can be correctly resolved, such as in service address. Note that the order matters in the end list. An environment variable is not considered defined if it is specified further down the list. That is why unchanged reference fails to resolve protocol. Yeah, because we defined protocol as HTTPS, but it was below, so the order does matter. Interesting. Okay. When the environment variable is defined or only includes some variables, the undefined environment variable is treated as a normal string, such as unchanged reference. Note that incorrectly parsed environment variables in general will not block the container from starting. The varname syntax can be escaped with a double $sign, i.e. $, and then varname in parentheses. Escaped references are never expanded, regardless of whether the referenced variable is defined or not. This can be seen from the escaped reference case that we looked at today. And so this was kind of a brief overview of dependent environment variables and how you can define them for a container in a Kubernetes pod. I'd say if you want to go deeper, check the What's Next section in the tutorial that I've linked in the video description. But overall, I just want to say thanks for hanging out with me today and learning a bit with me about Kubernetes. I'm Alex. This has been Code Along with Alex, and I hope to see you next time.